All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, the Warriors, they truly operate with a ruling class mentality. And that's why I always tell you, brothers, that a man can have more than one woman. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, I'm not saying that brothers should have more than one woman, but you can. And when you have more than one woman, what it does is, at least if you're operating according to a high level of cognitive function and understanding, it forces you to be an administrator. It forces you to be able to use discernment when you're dealing with them. And it also gives you options. And when you have options, you have empowerment. Why do I say all that? Because the Warriors, they're operating with that same mechanism. They have a whole bunch of superstars. It's like having a whole bunch of beautiful women. So they know that they can be blunt with their superstars because basically they'll let that one superstar know we can replace you because we already have other superstars that can make up for what you do. They want Kevin Durant to come back. But if he doesn't, it's like, okay, we'll just replace him with a very good small forward and we'll go back to 2015, 2016 mode. Now, in the case with DeMarcus Boogie Cousins, we know that he's been one of the most prominent big men in the NBA for the past 5 or 6 years. He's coming off of an Achilles tear. And now Steve Kerr is just letting it be known. Don't ask us about re-signing Boogie Cousins. We're not going to re-sign him. We're basically just throwing a line out to him this year to empower him. We're helping him out because we really don't need him. We're trying to put him in a good situation for his life after this year. So anyway, they're going to talk about it and I'm going to chime in.
It is time for
Spin off?
Boogie Watch! You know I was going to let this go. We had a recent development. Video surfaced yesterday. Boogie Cousins scrimmaging with his teammates. When asked about Boogie, head coach Steve Kerr was very honest about Cousins and his future with the team, or lack thereof. This is what Kerr said, quote, "We made no bones about it when we signed him. This is a one-year deal. We're not going to have money to sign him next year, so we'd like to help him win a championship. Have him help them win a championship also."
It's like a pimp talking to a hoe. I took you off them streets and I'm helping you out. So just make sure that you get on your back and you bring me my money. That's what the Warriors are doing. They're using pimp psychology on Boogie Cousins and on the NBA media.
And sign a great contract somewhere else. That's the reality. Scotty, what do you think of your former teammate Steve Kerr's honesty there?
Well,
He can afford to be honest because they have a multitude of riches on that team. That's why. That's why Boogie Cousins can act up on the sideline or on the player's bench and then apologize to the team right after the game. Because he understands the culture that he's in. Something like a low-level woman who's used to dealing with low-level guys her whole life, and all of a sudden she lucks into a high-level guy. She's going to be more apt to apologize to that high-level guy for an infraction than she would the low-level guy who she's just going to try to argue with. But when she's dealing with a high-level guy, she's going to apologize quicker. She's going to try to appease him quicker because she recognizes what he's bringing to the table that she's never experienced before. Same thing with Boogie Cousins.
I think it's time for him to be honest. I mean, Boogie Cousins is coming back. The expectations is that he's going to come back and probably get in the lineup. So he's really letting people know that if this kid averages a double-double, don't start talking about negotiating for next year.
Exactly. And beyond that, what Steve Kerr is also telling Boogie Cousins, look, dude, you better walk straight. You better fly right. Don't bring none of that bullshit in here because we will cut your ass in the middle of the season. And if you fuck this up, what other team is going to want you? You're coming off of an Achilles tear. You have a terrible reputation all across the NBA. Very few of these teams are going to be willing to give you a chance. Supposedly, Anthony Davis is campaigning for him to come back to the Pelicans. I'm not quite sure how sincere that is. Because in my view, if Anthony Davis really wanted him back on the Pelicans, they would have brought him back. But I mean, who knows? Point being is this. Boogie Cousins knows that this is a pivotal season for him. He has to be a part, he has to be a functional part, he has to be a constructive part of a championship level team. His only job is to not make waves.
He's not our guy.
Yep.
He knows it, and let's move on. So they got bigger fish to fry than to be thinking about signing Boogie Cousins next year. They want to focus on this season. They want to win a championship and make it feasible for him.
And they also want to focus on Kevin Durant. Now, this is going to be a very, very huge litmus test for Kevin Durant, especially if they win the championship. Does he want to go off on his own and try to quote unquote prove to the NBA fanboys and the media that he can quote unquote lead a team? Or does he just want to stay in a happy marriage? A lot of people don't understand the main issue that stops people from being happy is them being concerned about how they're perceived by others. If Kevin Durant decides that he's going to operate on a high level and remain in a system that's perfect for him because he is not an alpha. Kevin Durant is not an alpha. If he stays on that team, they have perfect synergy with one another. They can win another 3 championships after this season. And they could put their names in the record books above and beyond the Chicago Bulls, right there with the 60 Celtics, even higher because of the level of competition today being more extensive, and with free agency. So that's where his mind should be, because Kevin Durant is not an alpha. What he is arguably the greatest beta of all time in the history of the NBA.
Yeah, and also maybe if they win, that will help keep Kevin Durant, who's also up his contract. So.
Ding.
First of all, look at these guys, man. They're practicing with the Globetrotters. They're giving away championships as gifts. Like, we want to give you this for Christmas, Boogie, an NBA championship ring. But the reality is, what Kerr...
You can see how Boogie's moving right there, that he still has no spring whatsoever. And he's never been an explosive player, but you can just tell by how he's running that he has very low spring off of his Achilles.
Kerr said is pretty, he's not revealing anything.
Yeah.
That's the NBA collective bargaining agreement. So what Boogie makes right now is about 5 and some change. Because he's got non-bird rights, meaning they don't have pretty much any rights, the most they can offer him is 120% of what...
Look how he's moving. Moving like an old man. Let me rewind his back a little bit.
What he made this... much any rights, the most they can offer him is 120% of what he made this year.
Look how he's running. He has no bounce off that Achilles.
Which is about $6.4 million. Right? If he has a great season, look, mid-level exceptions over $8 million.
Yeah.
Anyone could basically outbid the Warriors. So the Warriors understand, if he plays great for us, we can't even keep him even if we wanted to. We don't have the capacity under the salary cap to do so.
Right. Well, I mean, could they renounce? I mean, if they wanted to, could they renounce other players and move money around?
They're so high over that it's not their luxury tax level. There's not enough renouncing they could do unless it was a wholesale gutting of the team just to keep Cousins.
Well, I'm not suggesting they would.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, like, technically,
yeah,
to do it would
if
have...
you're bringing up the CBA, I want to learn about this. But yeah, I mean, look, I think this helps sort of with the team, and they've all been very honest with each other. Yes, you said how you win a championship and you get a championship, but it does help the Warriors, right? Having Boogie there, look, putting down that 5th All-Star in the lineup, that's putting your foot down. And when you are trying to keep a guy like KD, Scotty, happy, having stuff like that where, you know, the team's fun this year and Boogie's there and maybe you do seal that championship even if Boston or Houston's coming up on you. It's going to help.
For KD, this is great for him. You know, you're getting an all-star player who's probably going to be with you come postseason. So they're going to be better. I don't know how I can say this. They're going to be better than they were a year ago. You know, so...
They're definitely going to be better than they were a year ago. And you can tell by how the Warriors are playing this year that they have a different outlook than they had last year. I think they got caught up in the drudgery of last season, and now they've been reinvigorated, maybe by a lot of their players approaching 30 years old, and now they start to see the end of the tunnel. Many times when players get into their early 30s, they realize, okay, you know, every year is a blessing, that I can still jump and dunk a basketball, that I can still be out here. Because that athletic life is a very, very brief life. Scotty knows it as well as anybody. So I think the fact that a lot of their players are in that 29, 30-year-old range, maybe they're starting to understand their athletic mortality.
So,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, when you look at a guy like KD could be remembered as the greatest player, the greatest scorer to ever play the game.
Excuse me?
Because he's playing with 2 other...
Here goes Scottie Pippen again. trying to make waves on the internet, calling KD possibly the greatest player ever. Now, Scottie Pippen, we all know that there's no way in hell that KD is ever going to be considered the greatest player ever. We know that already, so just stop.
The greatest shooters to ever play the game, he's on chill mode.
Wow.
That's crazy. Because no one can stop this guy. He's 6'11". He can shoot over anyone. He can get his shot off at any time.
Can defend.
And he's a defender. but he's such an unselfish player.
Well, he fits in perfectly with their team. I wouldn't call KD unselfish. I call him a player who can fit into any system because he plays so well off the basketball. And he moves without the ball very well. That's why LeBron James would never fit into the Golden State system. Like you see people like Shannon Sharp. Oh, Skip Bayless. Can you imagine if LeBron within Golden State? No. He wouldn't fit in well with Golden State because he pouts too much. When everything's not about him, he pouts too much. Kevin Durant is much more amenable to change. He's much more amenable to playing a certain role. LeBron is not. But that's what makes Durant so great. He's like a Swiss Army knife. You can fit him into a multitude of systems, and because he can score in diverse ways, and because he's a willing defender, and he's a very good teammate, that's what makes him the perfect Golden State Warrior. That's why he would be a fool to leave.
And
He plays the game the right way. He went into a situation where he hasn't stepped on anybody's toes. He hasn't went there to try to be the league's leading scorer, which we all know he can.
If he wanted to, yep.
And he's in chill mode. Like, he is gonna be a guy that could have averaged 35, 40 points in this league, and he's accepting winning overall. Nothing individual. It's about.
Scotty, you sound like you're talking about yourself a little bit too. Because Scotty could have been a guy averaging 25, 26 a game back in the mid-90s. Because he was somebody who could do it all.
It's about the team.
He might do that next year if he goes to the Knicks.
That's what you're hoping for because you're a Knicks fan.
Real quick though, about Cousins. You know what he does? He does two things for them. One is he gives them motivation because it's something new, a new toy.
We want to get him a
Yeah, we want to get him a ring. So it motivates the other guys. But the other thing he does is if they treat him right and he plays well and he gets a big deal, he becomes a poster child to give me your poor and huddled mass.
That's exactly what it is as well. That's why I state the Warriors are utilizing a lot of pimp psychology. Good catch, Amin El-Hassan. The Warriors are utilizing a lot of pimp psychology with DeMarcus Cousins. Are you an NBA player in your late 20s, early 30s, and you've been very effective and you feel like you have not been treated as well as you could have been treated or things have not gone your way? Come to us. We'll give you 20 minutes a game. You'll play your role. We'll win a championship, and then you can go out. You can go off and sign a big contract with somebody else.
If you're an all-star and you've been mistreated and people don't like you,
Ding, ding, ding.
come to Golden State. We'll get you a ring. We'll get you paid, and they can keep doing this year after year, just turning around.
So you're saying
Absolutely.
that teams have traditionally done this with like the David Wests of the world, right? With some of these older veterans who are like looking final as that final thing of their career. They're doing it with the elite all-stars of the world.
They'll do it with
They're saying,
everybody.
if anyone-
Hey, Anthony Davis, you don't like New Orleans? Come to go.
Well, there was a portion of the New Orleans Pelicans versus Golden State Warriors game where Draymond Green, he was pulling Anthony Davis aside. See, Draymond Green, he really is he's the Don of Golden State. Because Draymond Green is anticipating that Kevin Durant may possibly leave. So who knows what's going on in Draymond's head, but we all know that Anthony Davis is under contract. So whatever manipulation or machinations Draymond is trying to utilize on Anthony Davis will not be as effective as it was with KD.
Golden State, we'll take care of you.
Moving on.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see what happens with Mr. DeMarcus Cousins over the course of this season. So peace.